This is Industry Relations, a podcast that's at the intersection of real estate and technology from an insider's perspective, with Rob Hahn and Greg Robertson.
Hey everybody, welcome to an episode of Industry Relations with Rob and Greg. This is obviously your co-host Rob, and since we're doing video, you can see my other co-host with the wonderful hair this way. Greg, hola.
Hola, Rob. How are you doing?
Hola. I'm doing great, man. Good to see you. This is awesome. This new background is killing it.
Yep.
Yeah. And we've been busy.
Yes, I know that my schedule has been a little bit rough for you to get on there. I appreciate the flexibility you've been having with me.
Hi, man. It is what it is. You know, it's amazing that we're even trying to keep like a regular schedule on this thing. You know?
Well, I'm working for the man now, right?
Exactly.
So you're the one that's
exactly. You got bosses.
Free, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, but we had a topic that I think we wanted to get into, and it was your idea, your suggestion. So why don't you lead us off, man? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, what I want to talk about is, I mean, the way I put it is, for lack of a better word or name, if I would give like the average real estate agent a kind of a name, let's call her Marge, right? And you have those memes out there like the internet is undefeated, right? Always. Yeah. I would posit to you that Marge is undefeated, man.
Marge is undefeated.
And what I mean by that is that if you look at all the real estate tech stocks, if you look what's happened over the pandemic, which is supposed to be not this, new trends, but acceleration of others, right?
Yeah.
That the average realtor is making more money than they ever have in their life, right?
Okay.
And that no matter how much that Silicon Valley or anybody else is trying to pour in this industry, you can't beat the as I like to say, the eyes, the ears, and the nose of a good agent. And I'm telling you right now, Marge is undefeated.
Marge is undefeated.
I think the market's displaying that. I think consumers are speaking with their pocketbooks, and that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about, why humans still matter in this world of real estate.
You just said two different things, though, because the first part of your statement is just clearly wrong.
Oh, here we go.
Marge, living large, in charge is just not true, right? I mean, I think it should be fairly obvious that Marge is actually not winning.
Do you think? Hold on. Isn't she making more money than she's ever had in her career?
Well, according to NAR,
commissions up for the industry at large.
Granted, but according to NAR,
just so we're on the same page here, how are you measuring success?
Hold on. So first of
I'm
all,
a capitalist, and I would measure that success.
Sure, let's do it by money. Here's my point, right? Because you define Marge as the average real estate agent. And what I'm saying is the
average is something you're throwing in there. I mean, we can roll tape, but
dude, you said average real estate agent.
Okay, all right, go ahead. Right? Go ahead.
They're getting murdered. They're getting killed. Now, your second part of the statement, what you said is human beings in real estate will always be important. That I agree with 100%. And I would actually argue that there's been no disruptor that actually has tried to disrupt that. So there are two different things we have to talk about. So the first one is Marge, the average real estate agent. According to NAR, in 2020, the average median gross income for realtors was $43,300. $43,000. Marge, the median gross income agent, could probably make more money getting a job as an Uber driver. Right?
I mean, again, I'm looking, maybe I said average. I don't remember what I said here. But I'm saying that overall commissions are way up.
Yes, right.
From any time in history, right?
That's right.
And by that measure, I'm saying that, realtors are winning.
Right. And realtors as a group, in other words, human beings who help buyers and sellers, they are winning as a group.
And what you're seeing here is like, I look at a lot of like the narratives are changing I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Rob, but let me.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, and the most recent one I just smiled was this thing from Zillow's new, I think the president of IMT, she was at Seat, you know, what was her name again? Kind of interviewed
Susan.
before. Susan, right?
Yeah.
About, you know, it's about bionic agents, right? About agents empowered with technology. And
Yeah.
I'm like, come on,
Greg,
man.
that's true though.
It is true, but it's like these guys come in, and Zillow might be an exception, right? But these startups come in with all this cash, and they have all this, you know, machoism or whatever, that they're going to change the industry, and they're going to get, you don't have to use agency more or anything else, and then it's a two-step process. Then they realize, okay, this is a little different than we thought. Then the next thing they do is they announce that they have an agent program to have agents come in there. If I look at Inman News, there's like 4 articles on like how agents can work with iBuyers, how agents can work with, you know, power buyers, how agents can work with you know, all these things, right?
Yeah.
So it's apparent to me that everybody comes in with such gusto, trying to disrupt and everything else. But
let's establish a few of them basic facts so we can argue more effectively, right? Number 1, can we agree that the average real estate agent is getting murdered?
No.
We can't agree with that?
Murdered would be that, you know, and I don't know if you have this data in front of you, but is that $43,000 a year? Is that gone up or down from the year before or previous?
Let's see.
I mean, murdered to me is they're dead. I mean, that's not.
Yeah, in 2019, the median income was $49,700. In 2020, it was $43,330. I don't have 2021 stats. I'm gonna guess the median went down. And the reason why I say that is because all of the data that's showing so far is that the top 5-10% of agents are doing better and better and better. They're getting more and more market share. So the average agent is getting murdered. The top agents are killing it. They're killing it.
Are you talking about, like, you know, to me, I mean, I would just again have a problem with that term. Like, you're going from 49 to 43. That's being murdered. Being murdered is like from 49 to 10,000. That's being murdered.
I don't know, man. A 15% decrease in your commission.
15% isn't being murdered. Who would ever call
15% in the hottest market ever, when home price went up 18% a year
with the lowest inventory ever, right? So there's caveats all over the place, man.
No, granted, but what I'm saying is that's the median.
Come on, murdered is that's just
okay. You want to play semantics? That's fine. They're doing badly. They're not doing well.
They're not doing as well as they have been in the past. But murder.
Correct. But why are they not doing as well? It's not because of technology companies. It's because of other agents are taking their business. That's my point. Agent teams have completely taken over the industry.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, again, here's the thing I think about teams, right? It's like this catch-all, right, for everything. But I mean, there's no National Association of Teams. I know from being in the vendor space.
Yeah.
You know, that's a coveted data source. Like, we all want to, where can we get this data on these teams and who's on teams and everything else?
Yeah.
And then I hear people like you say, well, teams are killing it. I'm like, okay, show me the data. Right. Yeah. I mean, we read about these things, we read about them, and you know, and I mean, I'll grant you this. I kind of agree with you, but really, you and I have no data, really hard data to stand on.
I actually have some data.
Okay, right. Some data. Okay.
Some data. I mean, I don't. Had we known we were definitely talking about this, I would have pulled up the slides. But just as an example, there was one stat that I heard from a team friend of mine out of Phoenix, who said that 5% of agents in Armless do 87% of transactions. Right. So I asked Matt Consalvo at that, and Matt said that's not true. That's incorrect. 5% does not do 87% of transactions. Then he thought about it. And they said, well, I guess if you look at certain segments of the property on certain types of markets, then yeah, that's true. 5% to 87% of transactions. So it's not entirely wrong, right? But here's the thing: if it's not 5 doing 87, then it's like 10% doing 80 or whatever the number is. So that's number one. Number two, I've looked at some of the performance data out of the MLSs, and I'm telling you, man, the concentration of power is real, right? So my first point simply is, let's define what we're talking about. We're talking about the average real estate agent. They're not doing great. Real estate agents as a whole are doing amazing. They're doing fantastic, right? And in particular, the top 5 to 10%, the elite agents, the really high producers, the teams, the mega teams, those people are doing extremely well. Why are they doing so well? And I'm saying I would agree with Susan Daimler on that point, is because they're bionic agents, right? As an example, what is Cloud CMA but a bionic tool? What is Cloud CMA other than a super, right? It's a fucking superpower, right? You're the Iron Man suit.
You're you're not winning this argument with flattery, okay? I see what you're doing here.
But I mean, we could take any technology, any vendor that's out there. If they're being successful, it's because they're helping these agents who are productive be even more productive, right? You have a CRM system. All of a sudden, you went from being able to stay in touch with 50 clients or 50 past clients to now 500 past clients. Right? You get a better system and maybe some admin stuff. Now you're staying in touch with 5,000, right? I mean, we know this. Transactions come in, it's
okay. But as long as we've been talking, and even before this craziness, and
sure,
hell, I think we've been in the craziness ever since this cycle. They keep on saying it's gonna go, but this is the longest damn cycle forever. But there's always been this 80-20 rule, right?
Correct.
And in every industry they talk about there's always an 80-20. So there is naturally, some level of a few agents doing much better than the majority of agents, right? So now, we can argue that technology has only compressed that further.
It has.
Right? Are we talking about, a 90 and 95, 95-10 or 95-5
or 5 and 87, right? Those are the types of numbers we're seeing.
Right. So, there's something there to be said, but it's not, so
it doesn't defeat your point. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Right. I'm saying we define it. So the first thing is that average agents are not doing well. The top agents are doing amazingly well, and they're lifting everybody up. Right. That's for point number 1. Point number 2, though, is kind of your key point, which is, look, technology is they're not going to disintermediate the agent. And I agree with you. Right. So I do presentations. I talk about this. The question I have is, honestly, man, I cannot think of the last technology company that came in saying we are going to get rid of the agent.
Well, they could never say that, though, but it was always implied. Right. Of course, they're not going to say that kind of stuff.
Like who? Open door, right out at the gate. Open door. I mean, brokers and agents.
I think Redfin was really the first one that got their hands slapped, right? It was
okay, no, but that was 13 years ago, right?
Somebody Google Redfin in 60 minutes, and you tell me what the hell.
I know, but again, that was like 13 years ago, and
sure.
They pivoted pretty quickly to now. Here's the thing, they still use agents. They don't use, the 1099 agents. They hire their own agents. And like I said, I just can't think of in the last 10 years or so, any company, right, coming in and saying, hey, you know what, this system is broken. We're going to get rid of the agent and replace them with technology. Instead, what I've heard,
they're never going to say that, though. They're always going to come in like, we're your friend. We're here to help you.
But that's true, though.
Whatever.
But that's true. In other words,
but really, I'm talking to those guys, and I know in the back of their head, they're just thinking, these guys are making way too much money. We're going to eliminate this and blah, blah. I mean, they're not saying that. They're not saying that,
Okay, so let's name names. Who's saying that?
Hey, I'm not, snitches get stitches, man. I mean.
This is the vendor Ali Omerta code of silence thing.
There's no code of silence here, man. This is broadcast, right?
No, for real. So instead, what we've heard instead is this: we've heard vendors come in and say things like, "We have this technology that's super disruptive, and it's going to make things much more efficient, and the better agents are going to do so much better." And that's how they sell it. Look, you should buy our whatever thing, transaction system, CRM system, lead generation, whatever the thing, and you're going to, double your production. You're going to 10x your lead generation, right? So what it's doing is, every vendor I can think of in our space, they're arms merchants. That's my point. They're all arms dealers. So all they're doing is selling better and better tools and weapons to agents. The agents who tend to be able to afford those are the top producers who have the money, and therefore it's this vicious cycle. And the bottom bottom 70%, 80% of the agent ranks are getting completely decimated as a result. And again, this isn't just me, man. These are brokers. Like look, we're in this relations. We've done lobby cons. We have been in bars with brokers, who after a few drinks will open up and be like, yeah, the teams are like bending me over a barrel and, not even giving me a reach around. I mean, it's bad. It. I know it. Right.
Well, okay. I mean, I could agree with some of the stuff there, but, going back to like, so I recently was, I'm almost done with it, but I think the movie's coming out this week, but Uber's story, Super Pumped, right?
Oh, okay.
And the story of Travis, I forget his last name, but
Kalandi,
I can't pronounce it.
Whatever.
But famously outed by whatever Travis.
Yeah. Travis.
And they come in, and this is so like to me like exactly what as you're saying. Well, nobody comes in to say that we're going to get rid of agents. I mean, these guys, Uber, for instance, right? I think it was quoted in something saying, "Oh man, if we didn't have any drivers, this business would be beautiful." Right? I mean, and they were focusing a lot on like automation. They had like spending money on that kind of thing. So they come in like we're gonna change. All these people can now be empowered to drive their own cars and make money this way, whatever. But in the back of their heads, when they got a couple beers in them, they're gonna slip and they're gonna say something like, "You don't think?" I mean, I know the guys at Open Door and all Zillow and all the iBuyer stuff. The single big expense they have on there is the agent fees.
Of course, yeah.
You don't think those guys would want that all to go away? Absolutely, their business goes way up if they go away. So I think it's like they might not saying it, right away. But if you just all you have to look is at their income statement, right? And where their motivation is going to come from, right? Sure. How what would happen if I took out that line right there? Holy mackerel, EBITDA up,
sure,
growth to the moon, right? I mean,
sure.
Yeah.
But I guess all I'm saying is it's been a real long time since we've seen an actual tech company of any kind coming into our space saying we are going to automate and disintermediate the agent. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
I know what, and all I'm saying is that they're never going to say that, Rob. But if you look at their business model, that's their business model is saying that to you. It's actually
you're saying it's implied.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're saying, okay, I guess I disagree I see what you're saying, and I could get along with that. I mean, I think what I think about is like, let's say our U.S. Robotics, right? That's a company that goes into factories and fast food places, and says, hey, we will replace your worker, right? Like right now you employ 1,000 people on your assembly line. Let us give you some robots, then you get rid of 900 of them.
Right.
I mean, they're very sort of forthright about that. The self-driving trucks, they're very forthright about, look, we want to have these robotic self-driving trucks. You no longer have to pay truckers. If you're Canada, you're probably investing heavily into these companies right now. They're much more open about it. In real estate, we just haven't seen that. So if what you're saying is some of these companies are sort of saying or implying that their business would be way better if they could replace a real estate agent with algorithms, I mean, I guess. And in that sense, Greg, I'm 100% in agreement with what you said at the start of this, which is those companies are doomed to fail.
Yeah.
Like, the real estate agent, the human face, it matters. And in this industry.
Here's the thing is that Wall Street, they ain't buying it, right? They're not, for whatever reason. I mean, I think Open Door is a great company.
Yep.
Right. And they're being hammered, right?
Yep.
Compass, they're really talking about bionic agents, but I think they're putting too much focus on the bionic. Nobody bought that, right? So as far as that they were this tech company, not a real estate brokerage, or at least a franchise or whatever, a hybrid there. It seems like there's a sense out there that real estate is still not able to be disrupted like a lot of these other industries. And what I wonder is, and I think I know what your answer is. You always go here. But what would it take? What is it going to take for this business to be disrupted? I mean, is it technology or okay? Here, yeah. So
no, I mean, you got to define. You got to define disruption, right? Like, are we talking about disruption?
Agents going away. Agents.
Okay, agents going away.
Going away.
I mean, what's it gonna take? It would take institutional investor domination.
Institutional investor domination. Explain
Meaning,
that.
let's say the only buyers and sellers of residential housing in the United States were large hedge funds, insurance companies, Invitation Homes, BlackRock. Let's say it's all of those guys. Then really you just don't need real estate.
That's more of a rental thing, though, right? It's not a purchase stuff,
right?
Resale thing.
But even in that scenario, if some homeowner wants to buy a house, they're probably going to want to talk to somebody, right? So I don't even think that gets rid of real estate agents entirely, but I could see that reducing the number of agents down to, let's say, 50,000, 100,000, right? Right, because again, if you're BlackRock, how many agents do you really need, right?
Right.
You just have like one agent who's like making $1 billion from you every year, and they have a team of 5,000. I mean, I think that's more the model. And the arms dealers like yourselves would give that one super agent all the tools and technology to manage 5,000 agents across 24 states or whatever the case might be. I mean, that's the only scenario. Short of that, I don't see it. I just don't see it. I wrote an article a while back. It was one of my very first posts talking about this, where I talked about how, and this was the height of like Zillow fever. And remember saying, you, the real estate agent, have a secret weapon that Zillow and none of these companies have, which is that you have a face, right? And the point I was trying to make was that human beings, we connect with each other because we have faces, and chatbots are cool, automated voice systems, I guess they're cool, going on a website and doing all the searches and saving all that, because that's cool. But, computers don't have a face, right? Apps don't have a face. So, yeah, I don't know, short of like a metaverse type of thing where we're all in the digital virtual world, what I mean? I just don't see it. I think fundamentally, man, when you're making a decision that's going to impact you and your family for 30 years,
right?
You're going to want to talk to somebody. You're going to want another human being face to face to say, that's a good move. You should buy this house. Do you know what I mean? I just feel that way. And I think Spencer feels that way. Rich Barton feels that way. Eric Wu feels that way. I mean, CoStar certainly feels that way. Like everyone understands that. Here's the thing though. I think disruption comes in two different flavors. So my question back to you is, when you think about disruption, if you define disruption as replace agents with robots, then no, I don't think that will ever happen.
Or employees. I mean, or just non-commissioned people.
Well, non-commissioned agents are still agents, right?
Well, not necessarily, because it's a built-in cost. I mean, I guess it's a Redfin model in a sense, but
I mean, you could criticize Redfin. You could criticize Redfin agents, but you can't deny they're agents,
right? And they're the most productive agents out there.
They are the most productive agents.
Yeah.
So here's another way to think about disruption. This is what I've always argued, which is, if the number of agents go from 1.3 million or whatever it is that NAR has today to 13,000, wouldn't that be disruption? I think it would be.
That's not going to happen.
Why not?
13,000?
Yeah. That's 100x productivity.
Well, yeah, because here's why. First of all, real estate is a very aspirational business, right? So there's always going to be people that are going to come in and think they can do it.
Okay.
Right? And that is only hyped up by, what is it? 20 different shows on Bravo about becoming a successful real estate agent with tight suits and flashing money and driving around in fancy cars. I mean, it's almost like the equivalent of becoming a rock star or something. I mean, it's probably the odds are pretty similar to being a successful agent to a rock star. So I don't think you're still going to be having a lot of people get into it. Could you handle the face to face, as you say, with only 13,000 agents in the country? I don't think so, right?
I guess what I mean is like 13,000 name agents. Like the way I look at it, I did some math once. How many teams do you need in order to do all 6 million transactions a year?
Right.
Right. It's not that many. It's like a couple thousand. Now, each team might have 500 agents. So in theory, those are agents. So I guess if you think of it that way, but still, I think my point would be fine. Let's call it 10%. If there are 100,000 agents making a living, right, doing real estate. In other words, they don't just have a real estate license and they're investors, or they have a real estate license because they work for some new home builder, right? I mean, there are 100,000 people making a living from helping people buy and sell houses.
Right.
If there are 100,000, I think that would be very disruptive.
Right. I mean, I guess if you're talking about going back to what you're saying, I mean, if we go back to like the premise of like, it's not an 80-20 rule anymore. It's 95, whatever, 95-5,
something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's 80,000. That's only 80,000 agents, right? So, I mean, but here's the thing. We might be living in that world now. Right?
I think we kind of are.
But still, the infrastructure and how things are built still allows 106 million people. I'm sorry, 1.6 million people to become that call themselves realtors. Sure. Right. So and those dues go up, and that makes NAR strong. The lobbying effort. So, we may already be there, but the infrastructure that we've set up is still really encourages that type of large membership, right?
Oh, no, I completely agree.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about is as we think into the future, right?
Right.
So let me put it this way. Since you're actually a tech vendor, prior to Cloud CMA, how many CMAs could an agent do reasonably in a day?
Yeah, no, I mean, they'd probably have to do something in the combination of the MLS, in a spreadsheet. And
right.
It would take hours and hours for sure.
Right. So, I mean, do you think they could do 3 a day? 5?
Depending on the property, but no, it'd be difficult. Yeah, technology's definitely helped. I mean,
No, but I want a number. That's why. I mean, what do you think? 3 to 5 a day?
Sure.
5?
Sure.
Let's say 5 a day. How many could an agent using Cloud CMA do today?
Yeah, it's unlimited, really. I mean, the way that.
But there are only so many times, so if it takes 5 minutes to run a Cloud CMA, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's 100x productivity. And here's the thing. That's with today's technology. So if I just fast forward that and just think, sort of futuristic, I'll go, okay, what does Cloud CMA look like, let's say 5 or 10 years from now, when now you've got access to fucking AI and quantum computing and big data and whatever else that we can't even imagine, right? We can't even imagine it. Maybe at that point, it's like real-time Cloud CMA. I'm an agent in the field as I'm touring that home, right? Somehow,
the reminds me of the last podcast,
right? Yeah. At that point, why couldn't one agent do like 1,000 CMAs in a day, right? And if that's the sort of trend that we're on, then I'm kind of with Susan. Like the bionic agents are just going to get more and more powerful, and I think that's very disruptive. Which is not to say we're going to get rid of agents.
Yeah, because I think again, I still think that they're still going to be coming in, right? I mean, as a vendor, and I know other vendors will understand this. It's like this industry has a lot of churn, right? And when you're a SaaS company, I mean, you want to keep churn down as much as you can, but the agents are not leaving because your product sucks or your data sucks or anything like that. They're leaving because they're just leaving the business because they can't make it anymore, right? But what keeps things going is that there's just always a fresh batch of new agents coming in.
Sure.
Right? That you can sell to and keep that business going and play that game. So I think fundamentally, unless the tail catches up with the mouth there, I mean, it's going to be hard to kind of see how you break that cycle where people just realize, I mean, this is a really tough business and don't even try, right? Mm-hmm. People are still going to try there.
No, of course, but people are trying to become, rock stars.
Yeah.
And there are only so many and most of them fail. People are still trying to join the NBA and most of them are going to fail. Yeah. But if you win, if you make it, then the reward is so much greater. I think we're going to see similar things happening in real estate as well. And again, it has nothing to do with vendors. It has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that technology continues to march. And if anything is unbeaten, historically speaking, it's technology. It just is.
Well,
Like once the steam engine is invented, the steam engine is invented. You know, once the internet comes along, there it is, and you can fight it all you want. You're gonna lose.
Okay, well let me push back a little bit. Like you're saying that, you know, an agent has a secret weapon and that's her face, right?
Right.
And you know, I've been saying that, and I hope I'll get the right quote here, the right number that I think you have, but I thought maybe the iBuyer stuff will be like a 5%, less than 10% part of the market. But I remember you saying that was
60.
closer to 40 or 60, right?
60. I predicted 60.
So I mean isn't there a conflict there with?
No, I don't think so. So
Why?
here's why. Number one, when I talked about iBuyer, I was very specifically said it includes the open door market maker model, as well as the knock power buyer model, right? Because the whole issue there was, look, the transaction sucks ass. Nobody likes it, right? Agents don't like it. Consumers don't like it. And primarily the reason why it sucks so bad is because of the mortgage process is so broken, right? It's so time consuming. So even if you went with a power buyer type model and a buyer could go and say, listen, I'm paying cash, and then once I move in, then I'll deal with everything else. I could see the number of transactions per agent going way up, right? So imagine you're an agent, you're helping a buyer out, you tour a home, the buyer likes it, great, we're going to put in an offer, and we're not waiting 6 weeks and all this. We're paying cash, like get it done. 3 days later, boom, it closes, right? Done. I could see an agent saying, I'm going to sell 10 homes this week. Because the way you go about selling a home is real simple. It's either I represent an iBuyer, like open door. Hey, I love your home. I'll give you $500,000 for it. I'll take it. Great, done, deal, cash, like send off to escrow. Next one, I have a buyer at 3:30. I go off. Hey, you like this house? Great, we're gonna buy it for you. Cash, done. 3 days later, you know what I mean? Like, that happening.
That resonates a little bit. I mean, I remember interviewing some agents that are leveraging iBuyers. It's like what they're doing is they call on FSBO. They go on Open Door, or some site. They find out what Open Door will pay for it by typing in the address. They're now tied to that. So if they would, if they can introduce a buyer, they'll get some credit, like 1% or something. Yeah. And they just start calling on FSBOs.
That's right.
Hey, I want to offer you X cash. Will you take it? Yes. Okay. Open Door. Meet Fred.
That's right. Transaction done.
Right. No, you could be very clever in that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
And I think we could see it happening that way. When Open Door first launched, I remember talking about this, how, if you ever went into like gosh, this is back in the day. We're old. So we remember like walking into like a Fidelity, when they had like actual retail storefronts, these stockbrokers, and you place an order. Right? Say, hey, I want to buy 100 shares of Apple. And the motherfucker would literally pick up the phone and call somebody, right? And I think about it like that, like in the stock and bond world, everyone, there's a market maker. So the stockbroker, so you walk into Fidelity, they're not running down to the New York Stock Exchange and, they're not doing that. They're calling some company who says, hey, I want to buy Apple. How much are you selling at? I'm selling it at whatever, $500. Cool. I will take 10 shares. It's
right.
So to me, I feel like if we get to that point in the world, some buyer comes in, I want to buy a house. Great. Let's look at this website. Here are all the homes. I like this one. Oh, that's an Open Door home. Let me pick up the phone, call Open Door. Hey, my client wants to buy your house for $500. Open Door says, great. Done. Place order. Right? I mean, I could see that happening. But here's the thing. The secret weapon still plays. Because what is going to make that client that just walked into the door want you to make that phone call on his behalf? It's because you're trustworthy, you know what you're talking about, right? You have a face, there's human connection. I think it's going to be stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean,
well, maybe we frame the question, and you were going down this path a little bit, but will we ever see a dramatic reduction in the number of agents because of this bionicness? And when do you think that's going to happen, and what is the tipping point for that to have happen?
I mean, we've talked about it, man. We've argued. It's things like if the FTC take some action around commissions, right? I think we instantly see huge
commission compression, right?
Commission compression would be one. Another one would be, and I think this is, I think there's a really decent chance this heads our way is if you get rid of 1099 exemption, because the government needs taxes.
That would be the one thing I would say really puts a nail.
It really does. And I think we're starting to, I mean, the fact of the matter is government needs taxes. You know, they just spent whatever, $8 trillion. California is raising taxes on like literally everything that walks. At some point, they're going to be like, hey, we need to tax these damn realtors. You know what I mean? It's going to happen, right? So
they're being taxed. I mean, on what they report for sure.
Yeah, but they're not. And I know they're not getting taxed like if these agents were employees, right?
Right.
I mean, and this was the whole the controversy around California's ABC test and all those lawsuit things, and people were terrified until CAR went in and got a carve out. Right. All right. So if next year CAR's carve out is vetoed out, like some new legislator comes in like, holy shit, we have $1 billion shortfall. Hey, you know what? Let's start taxing real estate agents. I mean, it's going to be stuff like that. I think will be the real tipping point. But here's the other thing that I think is worth at least touching on. I know I talked about it on one of my podcasts, and I know I wrote about it. But you saw all those stats from Redfin, right, about the growth of pocket listings?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I think that's happening, and I think it's maybe more widespread than we imagine. So if we get to a point where some of these teams, these super teams that are doing whatever, right, 80% of the business, if they start keeping more and more of the listings in-house so they could feed their own team buyer agents, then there does come a point where fewer people are going to want to bother, right? It's like you keep paying for MLS dues, you keep paying for, association fees in the hopes that, maybe you'll kind of fall into a deal. If that becomes less and less likely, then I could see that tipping point happening, which is why, NAR and MLSs and everyone's so freaked out, and why we have clear cooperation policy, and why we have all these things. But to your point, I think those are the dangers. Those are the things to worry about.
Yeah, so, I mean, that reminds me of, that recent announcement from PLS that they're now NLS or something.
Oh yeah.
And it seems like they what they want to be is like the portal for coming soon listings in a way.
Okay.
But since it's not really publicly advertised, I don't know. It's just a switch in what they're doing. But going back to what you said, pocket listings. And we've been waiting for this, and I keep saying this. I think all of us keep saying this, and it never happens. But and we've talked about this on the podcast before. Yep. It's like these business models are all predicated upon a seller's market, and we know it's going to flip someday. So
no, it's not. It's not going to flip. It's not going to flip.
It's going to flip. Of course, it's going to.
Not going to flip, Greg.
Of course, it's going to flip.
It's not going to flip until the dollar.
If your idea is only predicated that it's only going to be a seller's market ever, that your number's going to come up, and you're going to lose one day. It's just going to come up. You're always betting on black. You're always betting on black, and then one day, holy crap, it's red.
You are probably right. We've argued about this as well. Like, I don't think home prices have gone up. I don't think we're in a seller's market. I think the dollar's been devalued through massive money printing. So therefore, until something happens to the Fed, something happens to the US dollar, I don't see that. But that's neither here nor there. At some point, you're saying it's going to switch, and then the buyer market will be here at some point. There'll be a glut of inventory. And even then, I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a few top agents heading up large teams who have the face, who have the skills, who have the personality. Because this is the other thing, man. There's like a magic to this. Like, some agents just have this personality, this. You can't even put it like I can only describe it as like charm or charisma or something, right? That lets them connect with people, right? And lets them earn their trust like instantly. It's amazing. And when you see it in action, it's actually something to behold, right? And the other agents,
Yeah. And there's always that thing where if you've been in the business long enough, you've crossed a threshold where then it becomes just referrals.
Right.
And reselling the same people, the same
Right.
house again. So, that's why you have a lot of agents that are, let's say older, that can
Right.
still do killer business because they've gone through the wilderness, they've crossed to the other side, and that there's kind of just a built-in business there of people that did business before or people that were referred, right? So it's like, it's like anything else, if you can stick to it, there is something on the other side, but man, not a lot of people have that kind of fortitude and persistence to kind of make that happen, right?
So I will say this, though. I think there's one real important and interesting takeaway from this, which is, for whatever reason, our industry tends to have this like us versus them attitude. And the us versus them sometimes is cast as agents versus technology. Right. So people want to beat on Zillow. They want to beat on whatever, Open Door. They want to beat on some technology company, coming out and saying XYZ, some discount broker, us versus them, us versus them. I'm like, that's not the issue. To me, if you look at the numbers, the issue to me is very straightforward and very simple. The most productive agents are getting more and more productive. Period. End of story. And they're getting more and more productive because the technology that they're using that's available to them makes them more and more productive. Right. So the opponent, the enemy, is not the CRM system that's allowing the top agent in your area to do twice as many deals this year than they did last year. The enemy is the top agent in your area who's doing twice as many.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Execution. And if that's because they're harder working, if that's because they have more talent, then that is what it is. Right? You can't blame the fucking tech vendor who sold him the CRM system. You can't blame that's what now here's why I think that's important, because let's say you're an agent and you're not the top producer, right? You're the top, you want to be that top guy, right? If you're focusing on if you're focusing on proper competition, which is the top agent, then I think you behave differently than if you're focusing on the technology vendor, if you're focusing on the website. Does that make sense to you? Like, I think if some of those, mid-tier agents understood, oh, my competition is a top agent. What do they do that I don't? Oh, they make more phone calls. They're friendlier. They do more client parties. Okay, then I need to do these things too. You know what I mean? Like, versus what do they do that I don't do? It's like, well, they have a relationship with Zillow, so fuck Zillow. That ain't gonna get you anywhere. That doesn't make you more competitive, right?
Yeah, I always think that if I was going to become an agent, I mean, the first thing I would do is I could find the top agent in the market and get on their team.
Get on their team, right?
Right.
Learn
and
from
just
the best.
learn, and then one day, break off either.
That's right.
With their permission or without.
That's right. Or you figure something out, right? And look, competition is wide and varied. Maybe you say, look, I'm going to do something that the top agents don't do.
Right.
Whatever that is, right? And there are different ways of competing, and I think the newcomers that will be successful in this business are the ones who have a clear idea of who their real competition is.
So I guess, in a sense here, I'm started off this by saying, that all the money in the world, and you could I don't think they'd ever say, these people who put money in these companies, that they're out to get rid of agents. But I think it's implicit within their income statement that they would love to see agents go away. Just like Uber would love to see drivers go away.
Sure.
That the agent, a human being doing this, and, average agent, whatever you want to call it, but a well-executing real estate agent has yet to be, and I don't think will ever be, disintermediated or disrupted.
Agreed.
Right. So we're in this case to a degree now, forgetting, let's talk about government intervention or things like that. Right. I mean, that's just something we can't talk about. And I think that's a great thing for you and I. We continue to keep talking about this business and dissecting it. But I mean, I wonder when Silicon Valley is going to, kind of realize that, because I think they've realized it. I don't think they've learned their lesson yet.
Dude, I think they've realized it. Look at the two most recent unicorns that I could think of, Picasso and Tomo.
Yeah.
Right. And now it's interesting that both of them were started by former Zillow guys. But Picasso out the gate was like, we want to work with agents. Yeah. We're going to pay full compensation. We want to work with agents. Tomo, right out the gate, we want to work with agents. They understand. Now, here's the thing. What those guys won't tell you is they don't want to work with Marge.
Right. No, totally.
Right? They don't want to work with Marge. They want to work with what we need a name for like
with
the
Brenda.
top agent.
They want to work with Brenda.
They want to work with Brenda, right? They don't want to work with Marge. That's the key. And I think if you're a Marge, you can't be focusing on Picasso and Tomo. You need to be focusing on Brenda. Like, what does Brenda do that you don't?
Right.
You need to be thinking about that. Not, oh my God, I'm so pissed off because Picasso XYZ is ruining my, like, no, that's not what's happening. Brenda is ruining your life. And you need to then figure out how you can be more competitive with Brenda.
Yeah. It's all a perception of how you look at things for sure.
Correct. And I think that dictates your strategy. And I think that it dictates how you approach this business, how you approach the industry. And I think that's why it's important to bring this out. So chances are most agents, most Marges are not listening to industry relations.
Right.
But Marge's broker might be. Right. So here's the point to the Marge's broker. It's not about, fucking Picasso. It's not about the tech. It's about Brenda. Right. So you need to go and start talking to your Marges about, here's what the Brendas of the world do. What are you doing? Right.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Stop blaming technology. Stop blaming Zillow. Stop blaming all these other things when that's not really the problem here. Right. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I think we end up calling this episode like Marge and Brenda.
Yeah, we'll see what the producers say for sure.
This is a good one.
Excellent.
All right. Well, hey, I don't know if we're doing that anymore. I think with this new format, we're not telling people to go to podcasts, more like our channel.
Recorded already. It's recorded at the end, so it already does that.
Yeah. But hopefully you enjoyed our conversation, and we will see you next time.